every urban renewal budget hearing that I've been to. The reality is, when we form the district, there are options. You can say, this is the amount we're going to levy, and we're going to sunset at this time. Grande did not select a predetermined sunset date. So we can't operate then until such time as we reach that maximum indebtedness. So, and that's how we know that under our current rate of expenditures, based on our current budgeting, that we're really now looking at that 21-32 sort of window as when we would reach that maximum indebtedness. And so that's led us to the discussion we had at the retreat last fall, that we really need to be strategic and take a look at, have we really met all of the requirements or the goals that we set out in the urban renewal plan, and how do we want to make sure that we have the maximum impact that we can over those remaining funds. Mm-hmm. So that's that next process. But the under levy, we're not technically using those funds. We are foregoing those funds, and in fact providing some of that revenue back to both our general fund and to those other taxing districts. So it extends the timeline, but it doesn't actually accumulate to the maximum indebtedness until such time as we leverage the funds. Yeah, does that answer your question?
Well, I'm not sure.
Okay, so that's a fair response.
So Timothy, you're saying then, even if the urban renewal district did not under levy, it would bring that money in, but it wouldn't change the indebtedness.
No, if we did not under levy and we collected everything that was there, that would accrue to our maximum indebtedness.
It would.
Correct.
Okay. So you could sunset this thing a lot faster if you under levied. If you didn't take the under levy for a couple of years, boom, gone.
That is correct.
But then you'd have all this money in the urban renewal district just sort of sitting there, unless it's obligated to some projects.
Well, we would have to spend it as it came in.
But we'd also, doing it the way we're doing it is giving our other taxing districts the opportunity to have some more money.
Yes. And that was, I have to take some blame for this, because when I came back on the council in 2014, one of the things I asked Robert was, can we harvest something from the urban renewal district? And he said, yes, we could do that. And that was back in 2014, I think, about when we started it. So
2017 is actually the first year that we under levied funds from the urban renewal district.
So it took a while to get to it, but it was, we've extended the life of this thing longer than
and the urban renewal under levy is not a policy. It's not a directive. It is a budgetary decision that's made every year.
Right.
So the budget committee agency could in fact say, no, we just want to collect everything and start paying off the debt that we've incurred, or we want to focus on a big project that will require that fund. That's a budgetary discussion.
Right.
That this
and it could, but then what would happen is you all would go back to the general fund and have to figure out where to cut the amount that's not being available from under levy, which is substantial.
There would
Heather,
be impact.
give me an idea of how much we're talking about going to the general fund really quick.
In this budget, it's $662,000.
Right. So how would we balance a budget without $662,000? I think we're getting into how does an urban renewal district operate. I think we need to kind of move on with our discussion and get to the budget itself. So.
Can we, while we're talking about amounts, can you speak to the historical amounts that have been under levied and how this compares?
I can, and we didn't do a slide on this, but so in 2017 we started out. That was our first year of under levying. It was $525,000. Then we reduced it down to just under $300,000, and it slowly went up for a couple years. And then in 2021, it went back down to 280,000, 2022, 205,000, and now it's slowly creeping up.
Yeah, my recollection was it's around 300,000 last year. So
Last year, it was 574, well, this current fiscal year that we're in, 574,000.
so this is comparable to last year. Okay, thank you. Okay.
If you recall at one of our previous work sessions, that was a discussion that we had, that was the plan to replicate fairly close to the same as what we did last year.
But if I heard you correctly, you did indicate that it does postpone the sunsetting of the urban renewal,
Yes.
which has been part of my concern. Why I've been bringing this up year after year after year is because it does continue to push that out, and ultimately, it's a source of money for the general fund as well as the other taxing districts. So it's all well and good, I guess, to give them some money now, but by doing so and using this under levy, we just postpone being able to apply the whole thing. I guess that's.
What you're highlighting is correct. It's just basically what it comes down to is a decision of how we want to implement. And this is the way that we've elected to do it, especially because this next year, our intent is to spend some significant time building an actual plan of how we want to approach the end. And so this gives really more than anything, me more time to get smarter and be able to invest in developing a better plan.
So we really need the under levy to make the general fund work, basically.
It helps, yes, for sure. We don't have to, but it helps.
Yeah.
One more technical question, and then I think we need to move on. Could the Urban Renewal Agency sunset the district on its own?
Yes.
And then say it's done, and we're not going to invest any more projects, and then you just collect enough money to pay off the debt that's out there,
Yes.
and the rest of it would go. So, all right.
It doesn't officially sunset until all the debt is paid.
Right, but they could, I guess the question I'm asking is, could they, before they reach that maximum indebtedness, could the agency say, we're done?
It could.
They could, okay.
Yes, they could.
All right, thank you.
Which is maybe worth considering, yeah. Okay, well, yeah, let's move on. It's a very complex thing, as you know, and I'll do some more thinking on it.
Thank you.
I have a question. Have we turned down any projects as a result of the under levy?
No.
Do
We have
we
made
have
sure-
projects?
We've made sure every year that we've had enough funds coming into the urban renewal to fund all the projects that we have.
That does raise another question. Do we have the money? I know we have the money. Are we using it for projects? I mean, it's been a while since we've had new projects, hasn't it?
No, we have projects every year.
Well, yeah, but I mean, not,
What do you mean by project when you say project?
that's the problem here. I'm not talking about like what is it called? The facade?
For the call for projects.
Yeah, some of that kind of thing. That's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about major projects such as the H Avenue improvements, things that require a fairly large amount of money. That's where the urban renewal comes in really handy.
It's an A area where it comes in handy. It's not the only area.
Well, sure.
And so what I can say is you have a valid point of what we could do. Up till now, as I'm understanding, that hasn't, well, we have done big projects before. Some would have some serious conversation over whether those were successful or not successful. But when it comes right down to it, the agency itself, per our recommendations, gives opportunities, for lack of a better term, a menu of things that we can do. Decisions are made, and then that's what we move on. And so
Right.
far, the slides that we've shown you in the last couple anyway, shows that what the agency has done has brought significant value back into the city.
Right.
And so I would argue that what you're describing would bring value as well, but the way that they did it also brought value.
Yeah, but I think there's a certain way you're supposed to use the urban renewal funds, and I'm not convinced that we're really quite on target there. So enough said for now, I think. But,
I appreciate
yeah, I
it.
do have some continued concerns.
Thank you. If you guys Unless there's more questions, we'll go ahead and continue. Thank you, Gary. Ultimately, the proposed urban renewal budget reflects what I believe is a balanced and disciplined approach. The agency continues investing in targeted redevelopment and economic development activities today, while also recognizing the importance of long-term organizational and financial sustainability. Urban renewal remains an important economic development tool for Grande, but like every public resource, it must be managed intentionally, transparently, and strategically. And that is the direction reflected in this proposed budget.
Yeah, so Heather, I'll let you take this first slide.
Okay, the general fund. So nothing really changes here except for the one only big change is the decrease in the URA initialized central business zone. I guess you don't see that page, but anyways, it's taking it down 250, and this is going towards the economic development plan in the general fund. So you will see that big change there. Really, other than that, everything's pretty much status quo. We have the call for projects that are carried forward, but other than that. Here, the debt fund, this is where all of our debt payments come out of, just our normal debt. And I do summarize in your guys' budget document the balance, current principal balance for these, and if prepayment's available or when it's available. This next slide is basically just this worksheet that we use to determine the under levy. So we said we wanted to bring in $700,000 into the URA. So we're levying $39.4 million for urban renewal. That's the value, assessed value. So that brings in 662, as I had mentioned before, into the general fund. And then the other taxing districts is what you'll see what they get additional there.
So that concludes the urban renewal presentation portion of tonight's hearing. At this time, we will transition into the public hearing and public comments section related specifically to urban renewal budget. Following public comments, the Budget Committee will have the opportunity to ask questions of staff regarding the proposed urban renewal budget prior to deliberation and consideration. And before we transition, I again want to thank the committee and the members of the public for participating in this process. Transparent, as I was saying before, transparent discussion and thoughtful engagement are important parts of responsible governance, particularly during periods where communities across the country are facing increasingly complex fiscal realities. Our goal throughout this process is to approach those realities honestly, responsibly, and collaboratively.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
Can you help me figure out from the budget message, we've got downtown revitalization support through an MOA with Grande Main Street of $40,000. Where is that in the budget?
So that is actually goes out to the general fund, and it's done through the economic development budget under other professional services. So we technically, urban renewal, technically we can fund capital improvements, physical improvements. We, the agency, felt that supporting Main Street and having an organization that can help organize and coordinate that effort made sense. So to do that, we hire them basically as a consultant or pay a professional fee. So that's that MOA, and you'll see that in the economic development budget.
So most of the materials and services that are for the URA are in the general fund, and it's done, and it repays the general fund with the transfer, which you'll see, sorry. It is 201-001-628-803. So you see that transfer,
Okay.
278,511. Those are for the materials and services that are charged out of the general fund, but then URA turns around and refunds them.
So the money comes into the URA through,
Taxes.
yeah. And then this 40,000 goes into the general fund, which then goes to LeGrand Main Street.
Is expensed out of the general fund and then URA turns around and reimburses.
How come we don't just expense it out of this?
Because it's for capital projects. And where this is more of a professional service, so we have an intergovernmental agreement between the URA and the city to do those services and the services for the URA. Kind of like Timothy is 70% URA, 30% general fund. He's all charged out of the general fund completely, but then we turn around and do an interfund to basically reimburse the general fund.
Because URA funds can't go to services?
Yes, materials and services.
So then are we using this money legitimately? If we're transferring it to the general fund and then they're paying it out?
Yes,
That's the legal mechanism. That's the-
because it's a professional service that we're providing to the URA.
So why can't it come out of the URA directly?
How can I explain? Trying to think of a good way to.
Yeah, I'm not understanding.
So the URA is basically paying the city of LeGrand to provide the service to the URA for the big URA project in general.
That's the legal way to make it happen.
Is that a change from last?
Nope, it's always been done this way.
Okay, okay.
And John, is the under levy that we have this year
Yeah.
the largest one we've ever had?
My understanding, it's comparable to last year, but
Oh, the largest?
yeah.
I do believe so.
It
is.
Yes, it is.
Any other questions on the committee?
Yeah, I did have
Lynn?
one, and that was under the facade grant. In the budget here, it shows that you have 105,000, but you're saying 75,000.
Correct. So we are budgeting 75,000
Okay.
in new dollars for the facade grant.
Yeah.
The other balance there is actually carryover funds. We have several facade grants that have been approved this year,
Okay.
which may or may not be completed before June 30th. So if those projects did not get paid, did not get finished by June 30th, if we did not carry over the funds, we couldn't pay them out of next year's budget. So historically, because of the cycle with facade grants, and we typically get several facade grants late in the spring after the budget has already started. So we typically take anything that's still outstanding by now and add one or two expected grants and use that as a carryover. So if somebody comes in May for a facade grant, we can approve it in May, and it may take them until July to pay for it.
Makes sense. Okay, thank you.
So it's $30,000 that's carried over?
Correct.
Anything else?
That's what I had.
Okay, thank you. All right, if I have no other questions at this time from the committee, then I'll invite the public to make comments. We have a 3-minute time limit. I'm assuming Stacy or Carrie will keep the time. The podium is open. Anyone who wishes to address the Budget Committee on Urban Renewal District Budget 26-27, please come forward. Not seeing a lot of action. So, I'll stop any public comments and invite discussion among the Budget Committee itself. We've had a lot of discussion so far, I think, on under levy, what's the word? Procedural elements of the urban renewal district. As much as I've learned about this, it's always a new thing that I find out. It's a very complicated structure. But I think we have a budget that is comparable to what we had last year. And I'm appreciative of the idea that there finally will be some discussion on sunset. and doing that in a realistic manner. So, any questions, discussion from the board, the committee? If not, you know,
Steve, I do have a question.
yes, go ahead, Roxy.
So you need to think about the dollars coming in. There's a pool of money that is call for projects. There is and that's the committee and ultimately goes through the council. Then there is the agency's amount, which is $250,000. I'm curious because I'm thinking back, when was the last time the agency funded a major project? Not the call for projects, but the agency made a decision to use that money to fund a major project. The only thing that comes to mind is the marketplace. Is there something since I'm not remembering?
They did the street thing from,
No, this was initiated, not the streetscape stuff. This would be a
that
project
was a
like.
project though, to
Yeah,
go from.
like,
In the central business zone?
Yeah,
Okay, oh,
Because you retain money every year for
Yeah.
major projects. And I just do not recall anything since that being funded.
I can't think of
we talked.
any
We
project that
talked
we
one about the Bone Camp building at one time.
There were 3 projects,
Yeah.
and they declined to put money into any of them.
So I can't remember either. I just remember us talking about them.
Yeah, we looked at it but didn't find
Right,
something
so
suitable.
there's that chunk of money sitting there.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
That you increase every year
Well, this year it went down by
Yes.
50%.
this year, but
Yeah.
what happened to the money that hasn't been expended?
It just gets carried over.
It just, gets carried
Spills
over.
over.
So I'm having,
Yeah, why?
why? When we had 3 viable projects before us,
They came
Why?
from us, they were not viable projects. As the agency, we did not feel that they were.
they were viable. Okay.
Or good use of taxpayers' money.
So when was
Yeah.
the last project? Marketplace, correct? And that was in the form of a loan, and the loan has been forgiven, correct?
Yes.
Correct. Okay. Something to ponder.
That is not a great idea. I will throw that one out there.
Any other discussion or comments? I think that, Roxy, I think that's an agency decision about whether or not they, well, one, should it be in the budget? What would you do with that money? 2, if a project came up that they wanted to do something with, they could. Right, that's
Right,
why-
a bigger project.
Right.
And I think that was the whole premise on not,
Buzz.
but there's this pile of money just sitting there.
Right, well, and you could say the same thing for the 425 for the traded sector in the
Yeah.
business park. So all total, the council
Do we
is sitting
really
on
wanna start on that, Steve?
$675,000 of money that's sitting there waiting to be invested in some way, shape.
But if you don't have it in the budget, you can't do it.
Right.
Comes up.
If
That's
something
true.
comes up and you don't have it in the budget, you're out
It's,
of luck.
you can't use it.
So
So
Do we
it's-
have anything on the horizon?
You don't know. I mean, I don't think there is anything.
Let's save that for,
You might know.
yeah. let's save
Let's
this-
save that for the
but it's- I'm
URAC.
just curious.
So some of that is a little bit sensitive topic to speak about when some of the people that are investigating the potential aren't wanting that information to be shared until they're ready
Sure.
to step forward with it. So what we can say is there are people investigating the desire to utilize those funds.
You know, it's probably about time to take the vote, but I think this is one year, for the first time, we can vote no on it, because I just think there's a better way of approaching the use of these. And if we're not using the funds, then what's the purpose of the urban renewal? We need to get some major projects out there, and if they don't exist, they don't exist. So maybe we need to use the urban renewal money, and maybe we need to sunset that thing and move on.
I would ask the committee to consider giving us the chance to develop a plan that we can come back to you with next year that would give you the ability to do that. But if you try to put us on that path right now, you're forcing something faster than we're ready to be able to intelligently execute.
Okay.
So give us the chance to intelligently give you a plan.
In that case, I'll vote yes, but this will be the last year.
No voting yet, Gary. No voting
And on notice.
Any more discussion or questions?
I do want to make note, so to better answer Corinne's question, the interagency agreement between us and the URA is what makes it legal for us to do that and spend the funds that we are. And that was based on some legal advice that was given to us, I believe, when it was first developed.
Okay. So the URA and the Grand Main Street are the ones who have,
The URA and the city,
and the city.
because they're actually two separate entities.
Yes. Okay, anything else?
Thank you.
If not, I close the public hearing and I will entertain a motion for the Urban Renewal District 2026-2027 budget. And it's a suggested motion right there. Go ahead, Megan.
I'll do it.
Oh, I'm good. What are you calling on me for?
Well, I'm saying you could read the motion if you want to.
All right.
You're all in trouble because I can see you.
I know, I'm right in your line of sight.
Yeah.
All right, I move that the Urban Renewal District certify to the county a request, this is the right motion, right?
Yes.
That $39,497,591 an increment value be used for the purpose of dividing taxes, and that the Urban Renewal District's budget for fiscal year 2026-2027 be approved as presented, and further that the budget be forwarded in its entirety to the Urban Renewal Agency for consideration and adoption during the Urban Renewal Agency regular session on June 3rd, 2026.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Second. All right. We've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed?
Do you want any additional budget?
Oh, we need a roll call.
Yes.
Okay. Stacy, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Do you want to do any more committee discussion first, Chair? I just want to make sure.
We could. Anybody else? Yes, I see that. Now I see that. Little levity helps a little bit.
Well, out of practice, are you, Steve?
So we've got a motion, a second. Any other discussion on the budget? No, Stacy, could we have a roll call?
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
We can do that. Josh Bachman?
Here?
Or
Or is it an aye?
yes or no?
Yes.
Matt Barber?
Yes.
Steve Clemens?
Yes.
Corinne Dudo?
Yes.
David Glabe?
Yes.
Ricky Joe Hickey?
Yes.
Megan Keating?
Yes.
Molly King?
Yes.
Gary Lillard?
Oh, yes.
Marianne Meisner?
Yes.
Roxy Ogilvy?
I'm going to abstain.
All right. Justin Rock?
Yes.
Tony Smith is abstaining from the vote. Denise Wheeler?
Yes.
Motion passes. Now you can continue.
Okay, well, the Budget Committee for the Urban Renewal District is hereby adjourned. The committee will reconvene on June 3rd, 2026 to consider approval of the Urban Renewal District Budget Committee meeting minutes. Encourage everybody to chalk that in on your calendar and show up at City Hall for that very, very brief meeting, and your vote is important at that point. So, with that, I'll adjourn the Urban Renewal District Budget Committee meeting and turn it over to Mayor Rock to start the next one.
So before we start, I'm going to give everybody a 5-minute break. Before we start, we'll get 5 minutes. It looks like it's 5 to 6. Get back in here. Oh, I'm sorry.
Could we turn down the air
It is
a little
8
bit?
minutes to
Yes,
7, so
thank
7 o'clock.
you.
Everybody back in the room at 7.
I'm really cold. Me too.
I know.
Thanks, Justin.
Once everybody gets settled, we will get started. Do I need to hit the gavel again? I would like to call this meeting to order, and this time could we have a roll call, please?
Josh Bachman.
Here.
Matt Barber.
Here.
Steve Clemens.
Here.
Corinne Dudo.
Here.
David Glabe.
Here.
Ricky Joe Hickey.
Here.
Megan Keating.
Here.
Molly King.
Here.
Gary Lillard.
Still here.
Marianne Meisner.
Here.
Roxy Ogilvy.
Here.
Justin Rock.
Here.
Tony Smith.
Here.
Denise Wheeler.
Is there any changes to the agenda?
No changes.
Well, this time we will go into election of budget chair. Is there any nominations for a budget chair for the general fund?
I nominate Steve Clements.
I'll second that.
We have a nomination and a second. Any other? Hearing no further nominations, Steve Clemens is elected chair by unanimous.
All right. Thank you again. You got to put up with me for more than tonight, so here you go. We have to now elect a vice chair in the event that I am unable to make all the meetings. So do we have any nominations for vice chair?
Nominate Corinne Dudo.
Second.
Any other nominations?
I didn't think a board member, a council could be,
Well, that crossed my mind.
Okay.
No.
City recorder?
You guys are all budget committee as a sitting agency committee right now, so I think that
why
would
were
be.
we always told we couldn't do that?
What, you were told that?
Oh, yeah.
Well, this is.
Well, we're
what
changing
being-
that right now.
I'm fine with someone else.
Yeah, me and Heather just discussed it, and we,
Okay.
as 14 members, are part of the budget committee. You're not sitting here as council members and agency members.
I think this would be a first, Marion.
I think so too. I've never, yeah.
You better show up.
So we do have a nomination and a second. Any other nominations? All right, hearing none. Looks like Corinne Dudo is vice chair by mutual consent. All right. Conflict of interest. I invite any member of the Budget Committee at this point to disclose any actual or potential conflicts of interest related to the budget.
I will start us off. So for the city budgets, I am declaring a potential conflict of interest because the city of LeGrand has a competitive awarded contracts for towing services which may include a business in which I have an interest that could receive payments from the city's general fund budget or the other cities' budgets. I do not believe this potential conflict of interest will influence my decision regarding the city's budget and that I can remain impartial. Therefore, I will be participating in the discussion and voting on the city's general fund budget.
Any challenges to Justin's declaration? All right, thank you, Justin.
I'm not done yet.
Okay. Oh, so you have another one?
I do.
Okay.
The enterprise and other fund budgets, I'm declaring a potential conflict of interest for the city's enterprise and other fund budgets because I own a business that potentially does business with the Public Works Department based on potential for sales of tires to the Public Works. In the future, I will not participate in discussion or vote on any of the enterprise or other fund budgets.
All right, thank you. Anybody challenge Justin on that? Doesn't sound like.
Actually, I'm withdrawing.
Yeah,
my
you're
vote.
just, yeah, you're going to be out of it. All right. Any other declarations? Okay. The public hearings for the proposed 2026-2027 city's general enterprise and other funds budgets and state revenue sharing are now open. Public testimony will be accepted beginning Tuesday, tomorrow night, May 12th, 2026. Before we go into John's discussion, presentation, a couple of things. Usually we set a time limit for when we kind of wrap things up. People okay with that? Should we set one? 8:30 roundish? Yes, no?
Yes.
Yes?
I would say more towards,
Okay.
I would push more towards 9.
Okay.
So that way we're not having that third day.
Okay,
I know it's long, but if we can push longer and get more done this evening, then maybe tomorrow night we'll be done and we don't have the third night.
let's,
Can we take it to 8:30 and see how we feel?
yes, that's what I was gonna say. We'll get to 8:30, see what we're doing, where we need, if it's a clean break at that point. I do like Justin's idea, moving it a little bit longer, so. I always like having this role because I have some prerogative, and I promise that I won't abuse it this evening, but I do want to say this. This is John's first rodeo here. No offense, John. I think it's the reality is we've had 15 years with Robert as the budget officer, and we got comfortable with that. That was the way it was. John's got a different approach to things. And last year, I know Gary and I had some discussion during the budget presentation about, the way the budget was structured and the desire to be a balanced budget and some other things. Gary and I reserved ourselves because those were policy decisions that the council needed to address before you even got into budgets. And I'll be honest, I have some concerns about the budget that borderline on administrative decisions. And I don't want to step on John's toes when we get to those things. So I think it's important for us to all remember our job here is fiscal responsibility. Do we have the resources to do what's being asked to be done? Keep that piece in mind. As we go through the evening, as we go through every budget, do we have the resources? And think financially. Try not to, as much as I like to get into policy, try not to do that. Try not to step into the administrative role. I think that's going to be really tough for us to do. But it's also important for us to find that balance about what we're trying to achieve tonight and tomorrow night, and hopefully not the third night. So with that, John, I'm going to turn it over to you. You've got an opportunity to present a budget message, and then the process is going to be different. Robert had a way to do it. You're going to have your own way. So with that, go for it.
Thank you. I appreciate that preemptive. Not that you're adding any additional pressure to it by saying that either. So welcome to the City of LeGrande fiscal year 26-27 budget hearing. The next several slides, I think all of you had the opportunity to read the budget message. I'll traverse my opening statement here and then move through these. I'll stop at the slide that you'd like me to stop at if there is one that you would like me to stop at. But tonight's discussion is about more than balancing revenues and expenditures for a single fiscal year. This budget represents a transition point for the organization. It reflects an intentional shift away from primarily short-term budget balancing and toward a more disciplined long-term governance framework focused on sustainability, operational readiness, infrastructure planning, and financial stability over time. The city continues to provide essential services today from a position of operational functionality and overall stability. At the same time, we also recognize that the current trajectory of rising operational costs, infrastructure demands, workforce pressures, and limited municipal revenue growth is not indefinitely sustainable without structural alignment and long-term planning. This is the purpose behind the Fiscal Transformation Initiative. The Fiscal Transformation Initiative and tonight's proposed budget presents the first major operational phase of that framework. If you've had the opportunity to read, parallel to this effort and getting this budget approved is inclusive of wanting that Fiscal Transformation Initiative plan to be approved as well. So all of the decisions that we have made, or I have made in regards to this, is in support of getting after that plan. And I recognize it's ambitious. These slides provide a high-level overview of the proposed budget across all funds. Overall staffing levels remain largely stable, with targeted adjustments intended to support long-term fiscal sustainability and operational alignment. Personnel costs continue increasing due to labor market conditions, workforce pressures, and operational realities facing local governments broadly. At the same time, the city continues exercising operational discipline within material services and discretionary spending where possible. Capital investments remain focused primarily on infrastructure reliability, public safety support, technology modernization, and long-term system sustainability. This budget also continues using available fund balance intentionally as a temporary transitional tool while the city implements longer-term governance and planning systems through the Fiscal Transformation Initiative if approved. Importantly, this is not intended to function as a permanent solution. The broader objective is to create time for strategic planning, economic development, service alignment, and long-term structural adjustment while maintaining organizational stability today. And again, the proposed budget is intentionally positioned within the primary phase of the PACE-E framework that I'll go over a little bit further later. Stabilization, planning, and disciplined early action. In conclusion, thriving communities require disciplined governance, reliable infrastructure, responsible financial management, and long-term planning. The City of LeGrand continues operating from a position of stability today. At the same time, we recognize long-term pressures are increasing across infrastructure, workforce sustainability, technology, and service delivery. This proposed budget reflects an intentional effort to begin addressing those pressures early through structured planning, disciplined governance, and long-term sustainability efforts. The goal is straightforward: preserve organizational stability, maintain reliable services, and position the city more effectively for the future. With that being said, I'll ask Heather to speak to this slide.
This kind of somewhat goes with the presentation for the general fund contingency reserve, future expenditures, and the unappropriated in fund balance. There's been many, many questions as to why our beginning fund balance is quickly depleting. So as you can see in the very first column, starting out with our beginning cash at 10,718. This basically follows the same format as what's in your budget book. So that's the actuals for fiscal year 24. I want you to keep in mind that beginning fund balance does include ARPA funds that we had received and not expended yet. So that's why it does seem somewhat inflated or high. And as each year goes on, you can see, so expenditures, sorry, I'm looking over this. Revenue, that shows in the total revenue. This is strictly just general fund. Total revenue we have brought in each year, so 12.8 million in fiscal year 24, and so forth and so on. And you could see those are remaining pretty flat. And then expenditures, as you can see, they're increasing and increasing each year, which basically, since our revenues are increasing and our expenditures are increasing and our revenues are remaining flat, we have a net balance of where we're eating away at our beginning fund balance. Fiscal year 24, it's a little different because of those ARPA funds, but as you will see in fiscal year 25, then 26, you'll see the 5.4 million. That's what we budgeted as eating away at our beginning cash balance, but what we're estimating based on expenditures for the rest of this fiscal year we're currently in, we figure we're only going to eat away at $3.2 million, which brings us down to $7.9 million in our ending fund balance.
Can you help me understand, these are different years?
Yes.
In the columns?
Yeah, so the first column is fiscal year 24. Second column is fiscal year 25. Third and fourth column is fiscal year 26. The first part of that is what we budgeted.
And then
the second part is what we're estimating we're actually going to do.
Okay.
And then the following columns are actually this fiscal year, the columns on the right-hand side of the, which is basically requested, which that's what our department directors requested, then proposed, what our budget officer, John, is proposing, and then it goes further for my purposes, what's approved by the budget committee, and then the very last would be what would be adopted by the council.
So impressively here, Heather, we were anticipating being at a little under 4 million. Had we spent everything budgeted last year.
This
we
current
have-
fiscal year we're
yes,
in.
This current fiscal year. As anticipated, we will be 4 million ahead of.
Correct. And
Good.
part of that, you'll see the 1.5 right there in the second to last row. That's reserved for future expenditures and operating contingency. That's money that we set aside for emergency purposes only. And to actually access those, it has to be done through our council resolution. So
So that is inclusive of that.
that is inclusive of that, yeah. That's where that 3.8 comes from.
And
You
will you
took-
remind me, it's about 1.6 that the city is required to maintain in reserve in order to bridge the gap between.
That's correct.
cycles.
About 1.4 to 1.6 million is what we need to have in our beginning cash balance to get us through for the first few months of the year before we receive property taxes. Any questions on it?
So if you didn't have the 1.5, I'm sorry,
That's okay.
I'm not, I need to kind of look down and get a mathematical sense of what's going on. So even with the carryover and the revenue that comes in, our expenditures are $3.7 million more than our ending fund balance and our revenue coming in. So the 7.8 plus the 13.4 that should be more than the 17.1 in expenditures, right? I'm looking at the first column to the left, to the right of the yellow,
Oh, to the right, okay.
right? So you've
Yeah,
got.
so our expenditures, we are proposing, we'll actually look in the second column over from the
3.7.
right, the 16.849 for expenditures.
Yes,
That's what this budget is proposing as an expenditures, and our revenue that we're proposing coming in is 13.4. So we're eating away, basically our expenditures are 3.4 million more than our revenue.
okay.
Then we have transfers in,
Yeah.
those are for admin services, so then really, we're eating away at $2.8 million from our fund balance.
Okay,
And then we always budget 1.5 million for those emergency purposes only.
right,
And so we're saying that we're gonna have 3.7 million left over.
right. And that's carrying that 7.8 down through all of
That
it.
is correct.
Okay, I got it now.
Okay.
All right. Wow. Okay, that's,
So about 5 million is what we are anticipating digging out of the piggy bank if we spend every dime that is proposed in this budget. Am I reading that correctly? Because we will reduce our balance from roughly 7, 8 to 3. So I guess it's 4.
4.4 million roughly.
Yeah, $4.5 million roughly. Okay.
So, I guess we'll see this in the totality of the budget, but we thought we would have $3.8 million in ending fund balance. Well, we ended up with 7.9,
Yes.
right? What's the likelihood that that's going to happen again? Or are we really going to see that kind of reduction?
Why is there such a big difference in what we thought and what we ended up with?
1.5 million is a big part of it, the contingency. We have to budget that in there, that we're gonna use it. More than likely we don't, but we like to have it budgeted in there, because
Right.
if we need it, then we have to access it. We can't access it unless we budget it.
I think.
That's still $3 million difference.
I think Tony's question is, how did we end up with roughly $4 million more in ending fund balance this year than what we thought we were going to?
A lot of it was a decrease in personnel costs based on what, compared to what we budgeted. We have to say that we're gonna spend 100% of our personnel costs, but based on vacancies that have happened, our personnel cost went down.
Right.
But we can't really count on any vacancies happening. So a large portion of it is personnel costs.
And without skipping ahead, but one of the things that we're proposing doing now is removing 2 costly personnel positions from the budget. So that would not be a gap that we see this coming cycle.
Correct.
So we need to keep that on the radar.
In other words, we're not budgeting for them.
Right.
Right.
But
And
we're still
But we're still,
eating through.
right. Right.
And I will say, I think to the benefit of the others that are present, there was a work session earlier this year, and John and Heather very, very graciously laid out for the council some of the reason why the city budgets as conservatively as they do, that it is quite an ordeal for the city to go back and approve additional money into a budget that's already been passed. And so intentionally, they budget on the conservative side, as if they're probably going to spend more than they will. This is a worst-case scenario budget that they give us so that we don't have to go back to the table and go through that process should something extreme happen.
That is correct.
Right. Any more questions? Thank you, Heather.
So this is probably the most important conceptual slide in the presentation because the Fiscal Transformation Initiative, if approved, is not simply a budget exercise or a response to one difficult fiscal year. If council approves, FTI is intended to function as a long-term governance framework for how the city approaches financial sustainability, service delivery, infrastructure planning, operational readiness, and long-term community stability. On the left side of the slide, on the left side of the slide are the realities facing communities across Oregon and throughout the country. Rising operational and infrastructural costs, constrained revenue growth, and a growing gap between service expectations and long-term fiscal or financial capacity. Those realities are real, and it is healthier to acknowledge them early rather than waiting until options become significantly more limited. The middle section reflects the governance structure the city is planning to implement through the FTI if approved. Financial guardrails, CSRI or Community Service Readiness Index monitoring, and the PACE, I'll explain that in a little bit, governance framework. Together, these systems are intended to improve visibility into fiscal conditions, service readiness, infrastructure sustainability, and long-term decision making. And I do want to emphasize something important tonight. The proposal, or the proposed fiscal year 26-27 budget, is intentionally positioned within the primary phase of the PACE plan. This is not an emergency budget. The first P is primary. This is not an emergency budget. It is a stabilization and planning budget intended to begin changing long-term trajectory early enough that more severe future conditions become less likely. Now, candidly, this framework is ambitious. There will be challenges. Timelines may evolve, and not every variable is within the city's control. But the purpose of FTI, if approved, is not to eliminate uncertainty. The purpose is to improve the city's ability to navigate uncertainty intentionally rather than reactively. Ultimately, the outcomes we are attempting to achieve are shown on the right side of the slide. Stable services and stable finances, because the goal is not simply balancing numbers on paper. The goal is preserving reliable services, organizational stability, infrastructure functionality, and long-term public trust. And finally, the statements at the bottom of the slide really capture the philosophy behind the framework. We are not simply reacting. We are working with a long-term plan, and equally important, success depends on all of us, the entire community. Because this effort ultimately requires community engagement, transparent communication, and informed long-term decision-making together, this is not a one-year progress. Excuse me, not a one-year fix. Progress will be measured over years, not months, and ultimately, this is the purpose behind the Fiscal Transformation Initiative. Unless you have any questions on this.
So can you give me an example of what you would be doing differently with this initiative than what's happening now?
So if you had the opportunity to be able to read through the strategic plan that we sent out, I'll try and give you a quick cursory overview of it. But within that PACE, the primary, alternate, and contingency, engagement, and emergency, is the intention for us to do the best that we can to solve our revenue-generating problem within the primary, alternate, and contingency. In the primary stage, it's not intended to be by year. It will evolve probably more rapidly than that, but in the primary tier of that is intended for us to implement some revenue-generating opportunities, while at the same time do some planning and position ourselves with some additional resources next year that are intended through creative means. Some may be costly, some may be, we may be able to find some, we're still figuring that part out. But the intention is for us to implement some revenue generating in the first year, while at the same time plan for us to do further implementation in the years that follow. In the best case scenario, we will be able to solve our revenue generating problem. The plan itself is intended to affect over a 5 to 6 year period. But within the plan also are thresholds that we've built into it that would cause us to expedite how fast we're traversing that plan. So where it's conceptually intended to happen over 5 to 6 years, it has the ability to contract and move quickly. But the key component in all of that is our communication with the community. Because when we get past the primary, alternate, and contingency, the next stage is going to be engagement, which is where if those first 3 tiers do not succeed the way that we want them to, well then we have 2 choices remaining, and we're making the community aware of that entire process proactively. I think most of you are aware that we're doing a lot to engage the public on a variety of topics. The intent is to make sure that they know the plan, they know what we're doing, and that they trust what we're doing. But if we reach a point in time where we're losing money faster than we can generate it, well then within the plan dictates when we would reconvene as a group. It dictates in the plan what that would look like. And then decide what the next engagement portion is going to look like. Most likely, my recommendation theoretically right now would be for us to start talking about the potential of establishment of a special district, which would be anything from a library special district to a Parks and Rec special district to a public safety special district. The intention behind that is to get the relief that we need to keep the revenue generating that we want to do to occur in a way that's effective. And with the current pressures that are on there, if we don't change it, then we're going to end up in a really bad way. But what I can say is through those, whether we achieve those thresholds early or through the plan, the intent is to never get to engagement and never get to emergency. But the community needs to know we're doing the best that we can to make sure that that happens. So that if we do bring to them a vote, then at least they can say, if they vote no, they're not voting no because they don't trust us. They're voting no because they just don't want to, they're not willing to increase their taxes. But they also know that then the only thing that's remaining is a guarantee, this plan is a guarantee that we will have full balanced budget in the way that you would want it to be balanced, but gives us an opportunity to do it before we cut services. Because if we cut services right now in order to achieve it, we can accomplish the conservative goals that have been accomplished historically, put ourselves back into the position to where we're starting to put more money into the general fund. However, our community is going to pay the price for it. They're going to get less services at a more diminished capacity than they already do. And I've gotten a wealth of information from the community that suggests that they're already not happy with the services that they're receiving. So this education process is giving us the ability to give them full awareness, not guaranteed, but an opportunity to give them full awareness of the work that we're doing to be responsible stewards of the money that we're getting, with the intent to make sure that if we reach a decision point, that they feel informed, and then we have the ability to actually move forward. And it's also a way to manage expectations. We tell them, we've given you maximum opportunity to understand and aware that this is what it takes for us to get there. You're choosing not to empower us to give you what you're asking for. Therefore, the only thing that remains is for us to cut services. That's the intent of this entire plan.
So is this a plan, initiative plan that's used elsewhere that you know results from, or?
That's a good question. So what I can say is I built this plan based off of experience from over the course of my professional life. It's actually, truth be told, a hodgepodge of many different things that I've experienced over my time. And as Heather was educating me into our organization, I was able to start and see how things from my past would help us to be able to better manage this. And I'm not suggesting that it was managed poorly before me. I'm just simply saying if we want different than what we've historically had, we got to do something than what we've been doing. And this was intended for me to bring something that I had knowledge of and experience of types of success in this type of planning in order for me to be able to apply it to this. And when you heard me mention before the Community Service Readiness Index, that is actually during my interviews for coming to the job, the very final interview that I had, I talked to them about a structure that we had in Army Installation Management Command called ISR. It stands for Installation Status Report. And it's a correlation between the services that we provide, the resources that we receive to fund those services, and the quality of work that we're doing as it relates to both of those, the community expectation, the amount of money that we have, and what is stated as what is desired. And that way we can more plainly talk from a color code perspective of how well we're performing in that. The team is in the process right now of building that dashboard out. It takes a lot of work. It's significant. Some of the money that we took creatively from this budget that we had started the funding of that platform. And some of what's in the budget now is intended to continue to fund that because we have a 3-year contract in order to implement it. But that tool is going to give us the ability to more effectively and transparently communicate with this body, to communicate internally with our workforce, and to communicate with our community. And ensure that everybody can talk about the topics at the level that they want to talk. Meaning if you want to talk at the 50,000-foot view, we can talk about it there. And we can show it to you in the dashboard. If you want to talk about it, you have a propensity to want more detail, then when it's developed far enough, we'll be able to talk about it at the sea level perspective. And then much further down the road, we'll be able to take it down to a very granular level. And so the intent is to be able to make sure that across all of the stakeholders, we can communicate at the level you want to, at the time you want to, and all of this will be available on our website and be visited at various different community engagement events that we're doing. So when you're looking through the lens, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but when you're looking through the lens of the things that I'm asking for here and the things that I'm protecting or the decisions that I'm making of why I'm increasing cost in some areas but decreasing cost in others, it's to protect the plan. It's to give the plan the maximum and best opportunity that it can have in order to be successful. I'm not trying to tell you that I can promise you and guarantee you it's going to succeed, but what I can tell you, it's better than the plan that I had coming into the seat. The problem that the city has done a great job of mitigating it up to this point, but call it bad luck. But the moment I came into the seat, it became acute enough that we don't have time to wait. The longer I wait to start getting proactive into solving the problem, I would have liked to have waited 1 to 2 years before I started doing anything like this, just figuring out the city. But I would say I'd be not serving this community very well, and I'd not be serving you very well if I didn't, besides that, and believe me, I've frustrated the staff significantly because they probably would have liked to wait and get to know me better and get to know me to get to know the city better. But what I can say is the problem's that bad that if we don't start working on it now, I'm only kicking the can down the road further to make the problem bigger and worse. And this plan, the Fiscal Transformation Initiative, and the budget that we're proposing is intended to get the results that I think everybody in this community and in this room wants. I apologize. That was a lot of words.
So, John, I appreciate that, and I'll admit that I don't fully understand what this plan is that you're trying to accomplish. The bottom line concern I have is based on what Heather showed us in terms of ending fund balance. The budget that you've presented to us, I'm really concerned that we won't have enough time until we're making cuts because of the increases in costs and the questionable, because I've always felt this way about it, the questionable increase in potential revenue. We know what we live in. We just don't have, we have a vital community, but it doesn't grow fast. I've been here 36 years and we just sort of inch along. And I don't think that there's any miraculous plan that's going to generate a ton of money to make up for the potential expenses that we're seeing in this budget. But that's my 2 cents, and I think we need to go through each one of the funds and have a conversation about them.
100% agree. And I can expand a little bit further that maybe this, I will say a big key to helping you understand this is reading the plan. So if you haven't had the opportunity to read the plan, I am trying not to talk down to anybody, and at the same time I don't want to pass over anything that's key that you might want to know. But we've created 3 different versions of the plan. One is intended to be easy to consume for those who really don't want to do a lot of reading. Another one's meant to be a slightly more granular executive brief version. And then there's the full-blown plan that will give you a great deal. It's about 14, 15 pages. The staff was really happy because it started out being 34 pages long. And so we were able to get it down to that with some really good feedback from the team. And that's what I should say too, is like, I don't want you to get the feeling that I just went into a room and typed and built this out on my own. The team worked together to build it. Not always in full agreement. So, hold on. So this slide is intended to visually explain why I believe the fiscal transformation should be approved and exists. The red trajectory represents what can occur when long-term fiscal and operational pressures are addressed too late, increasing deferred maintenance, reduced flexibility, service strain, and increasingly reactive decision-making. The blue trajectory reflects the city's attempt to begin addressing those pressures earlier through structured planning, governance systems, financial guardrails, infrastructure planning, and operational alignment. This is not presented as a perfect roadmap or guarantee outcome. Conditions will evolve, timelines may shift, and challenges will occur. But the purpose of FTI is to improve the city's ability to navigate those challenges deliberately rather than reactively. And importantly, this effort depends heavily on community engagement, transparent communication, and long-term shared decision-making. Unless you have any questions on this slide, I'll continue. And I can make these slides available to everybody if they want them. right, so this slide connects the proposed budget recommendations into our one broader operational framework. The work is organized across 4 primary areas: fiscal stabilization, operational readiness, economic growth, and tax-based strategy, and governance modernization. These efforts are interconnected. Progress in one area often supports stability in another. Examples include economic development supporting long-term revenue growth, governance modernization improving decision-making visibility, and operational readiness and helping preserve service reliability over time. I will say that when I spoke before about the PACE-E tiered approach, everything that I'm saying right now is built within each of those acronyms, those letters in the acronym. So everything I'm mentioning right now is being addressed within those. Ultimately, the recommendation reflected in this proposed budget are intended to provide the strongest opportunity for long-term organizational stability, service reliability, and community resilience moving forward. Unless you have any questions on the slide.
Okay. I don't have a question. Good. No, all due respect, John, I'm interested in the budget.
Right, but
And this is good stuff, and I think it's great stuff for the council. For me, I want to talk about what's in the budget.
So I'm with you and I'm taking you there.
Okay.
What I can say is it's hard for you to understand the why behind what we did in the budget if you don't know why I did it the way I did it. And everything I just told you is the why behind what's in the budget.
Okay.
So that being said, I'll get to where you want to go.
All right.
Heather.
This is kind of just basically what we went over in my big summary at the very beginning. This is just a comparison of our resources, and this, take in consideration, this is all funds. So this is not only general fund, but this is also our enterprise funds. So this is a comparison of our resources, revenues that are coming in. As you can see, everything pretty much remains flat. Our revenue is not increasing. That's nothing new knowledge to anybody. Everything's pretty much flat.
Unless you have any questions.
Quick question, just on franchise fees in general. Mm-hmm. Do you collect a franchise fee from Ziply?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know. I know that we had done stuff for telephone, and that's going down, and we did stuff for cable, and that's going down. Ziply has sort of replaced both of those in some regard, so I wanted to make sure that we were at least getting something.
We get Spectrum too.
Okay.
So other governments is down.
Those are generally grants that we receive. So
like
that does,
ARPA.
that comes up and goes down, just depending on the grants that we apply for and that we actually are awarded.
Because that's down a lot.
Yep. In previous year, like last year, we had the OFSM, the fire marshal's grant that paid for the additional person. That ended this fiscal year, well, this coming fiscal year that we're budgeting. It was a 3-year grant.
And the wildland fire truck?
We are still receiving that one, which that was considerably smaller though than the other grant.
Can we on this slide ask, I know we're in the midst of some labor negotiations, and has that sort of been reflected in this, or really that it's not? Okay, and so we need to take this with a grain of salt, that we could potentially see changes on that labor side, which would increase the budget.
That is correct. We did a pretty significant increase in personnel.
Okay.
But
and
at
I know
the time
that some of that discussion is privileged, and so this is not the place for that. But I think that is good, though, for this committee to be aware of.
It's
that
not
there are
been
things
accounted
not baked
for.
into this budget.
No, because at the time this budget was built, we weren't anywhere close to where
So that raises a question for me, if it's not baked in, as Corinne said, how will the city cover any amount above what's already budgeted?
We'll have to pull from contingencies.
Okay.
Like unappropriated?
And appropriated, we cannot touch.
That's the 1.5 million, the 1.5 million of.
Well, it's actually 750,000. The other remaining 750,000 is reserved for future expenditures. That has to be done through a supplemental budget. The contingency can be done through a resolution.
Okay.
But effects on the labor side, we need to consider as arguably perpetual. These would be carried forward in future years without a reduction in personnel.
Right.
And so, unlike some of these budget items, which are one-offs, a single project or, whatever, a sole infrastructure investment, on that left column, those are things that are sticky for future years and will increase because of.
They will increase unless
Yes.
we have cuts.
Yes.
And not only increase at the same rate, it compounds.
They escalate.
That is correct.
Yep. As a percentage of the budget, what is labor?
About 75% of our budget.
75%.
And this is the same thing, but this is strictly just the general fund. This is our resources. You can see our beginning balance has gone down. Property taxes are increasing a little as assessed values do increase as well. Everything else is pretty much flat.
That's a pretty big bump in property taxes. I noticed that seems like we're building, there's more construction going on.
It also includes the under levy.
It includes what?
Includes the under levy as well.
Ah, okay.
And here are requirements for the general fund only. As you see, labor is increasing, and will just continue to increase.
Would it be appropriate to give a worst-case scenario on the labor side?
Of what we're going to see as an increase?
I'm not sure.
And I don't know if we can do that or not. It's difficult to sit in a room like this and have such a large question mark as it pertains to what 75% of the budget is going to do. I mean, we need to consider that. Let's just throw out a number. If labor increases 5%, 10%, 20%, the impact that has on these numbers is outsized and extraordinary because of the proportion of the budget that represents.
And all three unions are in negotiation right now. They
Yes.
All of
negotiate
them,
all of
effectively everybody that the city
We're
hires.
probably going to see somewhere in the vicinity of $800,000 increase in labor for this year.
Okay. It's just good, I think, for this group to be aware of as we consider these numbers and some scenarios that would force draw upon contingency or further reduction of the general fund reserves.
And when I did build this, or when we did build this budget personnel cost, we did try to do a little on the higher side, knowing that we were in negotiations and
Okay.
big unknown.
There's some margin baked in.
Correct.
So
Yes.
just for clarification on my part, this is just the general fund?
This slide here, yes, is
Okay.
strictly just the general fund.
Right, so, because the enterprise stuff, any increases there get kind of covered by enterprise fees.
Correct.
So John, you're saying an additional $800,000 if contracts go
Just in the general fund.
just in the general fund? Kind of chews up that $1.5 million.
Yeah, here, because
pretty
you
fast.
added
Our
some.
benefit costs went up, skyrocketed this year. That's one of the problems.
I think people all around here saw medical expenditures go up 20% in terms of premium costs.
We're seeing 7, 10, and 13% increases depending on the choice of the collective bargaining units.
Okay.
minimum 7.
No, it's not above of what we have here.
You already have some of it in here.
Correct.
So you got-
We actually conclude, we're near conclusion on, we're pending signatures on all of them right now to come to council for final approval, hopefully at the June 3rd council meeting. Based off of that right now, don't quote me exactly, but we're right about $800,000.
We literally just today kind of came almost to a
And again,
final, so
I
haven't done any
understand some of
figures.
those, you know, this is not the appropriate venue to necessarily discuss it, but I think it's just conceptually something that this group has to keep in mind.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
we have to pass a budget. And we're probably doing this a little bit in backwards order, where it would be nice to have some things done before, so we need to have a margin in mind.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on it. Unfortunately, I
Right.
don't have a lot of say in the timeline for that.
And this happens every 3 years.
Yeah.
We're estimating approximately 2.5 million over 3 years. Excuse me.
That was fast. I like that one. I'll hold my questions.
I think I got ahead of myself here. All right, so throughout the budget process, I encourage department directors and leadership staff to speak candidly and professionally regarding concerns, differing perspectives, and operational impacts connected to the proposed budget. Just no different than where you have concerns. All of our directors had some of their own concerns as well. I didn't want them to feel as though they couldn't speak to them candidly when they come up. So they feel free to ask questions, and they will give you their honest opinion, whether it's the same as mine or not. I do not expect blind agreement within the organization, nor do I believe healthy organizations operate that way. Professional dialogue, respectful disagreement, and candid internal discussions are important parts of responsible governance and sound decision-making. I want the committee and public to understand these recommendations were developed through thoughtful discussions across the organization. That being said, we'll go into the different sections now.
Kind of sound like a broken record, but as you can see, this is our general fund revenue. It remains pretty flat, actually kind of going down a little. Interest is one that is going down. We saw very high interest rates a couple years ago, and eventually they are starting to go down. Any questions for general fund revenue?
I just kind of want to make a general statement. So I'm pulling this from the February 4th council meeting when we adopted the council's priorities from the retreat in January. And I just wanted to keep this in mind as we're looking at this budget. Our number one priority is long-term financial sustainability and infrastructure readiness. Number two, community health, safety, and well-being. 3, housing and workforce stability, both internal and external. 4, organizational capacity and leadership continuity. And 5, public trust, transparency, and institutional resilience. I really want to highlight the long-term financial sustainability as we are looking at this budget, and I don't feel like it's presented that we are going to meet that. Okay.
Understood. I can say in response to that this plan, this budget, and the plan that we've developed is intended to get that. Unfortunately, I can't make it happen overnight. I need the plan to have opportunity to work. If the only answer to solve that problem is instantaneous, well, then the only chance I have right now is to cut a department.
Well, what I see, looking at the budget, is that we're burning through our reserves to sustain. But to do that, we have, and we'll get into that, a lot of different pieces to the puzzle that are adding costs, when I feel like we should not be adding that much cost. And I know we'll get into those as we get into the budget, but I don't feel comfortable with that, with adding director positions, substantial IT costs, advertising costs across departments, and there's many others that we'll get into.
Understood.
Basically, this is just a summary of the very first, where we were talking about our ending fund balance. The unappropriated in funding balance, it is going down.
So Heather, I'm going back to the contingency where it was 1.5 million. Now it's at 750.
That was contingency and reserve for future expenditure.
Okay, all right. And you mentioned a difference between them in terms of how the council can access.
That is correct. So the operating contingency can be done through a resolution.
Right.
The reserve for future fund expenditure has to be done through a supplemental budget, so an actual budget hearing.
So if you had to do a supplemental budget, you'd call us all back.
It'd be through a budget hearing.
We'd have a special budget hearing. Keep that in mind, folks. You want to meet twice? Just saying. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so this slide reflects the proposed budget for the city council, manager, and personnel functions. Several of the changes reflected here are directly connected to the broader strategic framework and long-term planning efforts discussed throughout tonight's presentation. One of the more significant recommendations is the proposed reclassification of the human resource generalist positions to the HR director role. We view this as part of a broader organizational sustainability and operational alignment strategy as workforce complexity, labor relations, recruitment, compliance, and organizational planning demands continue increasing. We've also had a lot of turnover in this position in the past, so with increased responsibilities and a history of turnover, this to me made the most logical sense to give us the consistency that we need. The budget also includes investments tied to grant support, community engagement, strategic planning, technology systems, and public communication efforts associated with the Fiscal Transformation Initiative. Also, I highlighted in here, you'll see the TRT allocations reflected here are intended to support tourism-related activities, economic development, and community activation efforts. And I do want to acknowledge something important regarding this slide. Every recommendation within this proposed budget was evaluated as part of the broader strategic framework, provides the best opportunity for long-term organizational and community success. That does not mean every recommendation is beyond debate. The Budget Committee and Council absolutely retain authority to modify priorities and recommendations through this process. However, changes to proposed recommendations may affect the pacing, integration, or effectiveness of the broader long-term strategy. That said, whatever direction is ultimately provided, we will work within the guardrails and policy direction established by the committee and council with genuine intent and professionalism to achieve the strongest outcomes possible for the community. In regards to the TRT fund allocation, I think you guys remember I sent an email out that highlighted this particular issue. This slide outlines the proposed TRT allocation approach reflected within the proposed budget and the policy considerations connected to that recommendation. At a high level, the proposed budget maintains a standard chamber allocation of approximately 36%, or roughly $45,000, while approximately $75,000 is proposed toward a priority parks and recreation tourism-related project, Both are eligible uses for TRT funding. The proposed recommendations largely reflects the timing and communication realities that occurred during this year's budget development process, including transition periods within both city administration and chamber leadership. This slide is intended to illustrate that there are multiple policy paths available to the committee and council. Maintaining the proposed allocation preserves the current budget structure and supports the identified Parks and Recreation project while still providing chamber funding. Reallocating additional funds toward the chamber would increase tourism promotion support, but could delay or reduce currently identified project activity in Parks and Recreation. Increasing the overall TRT allocation to support both priorities simultaneously would likely require additional general fund support and could create additional long-term fiscal pressure. My recommendation reflected here is intended to demonstrate two needs are occurring and a hard decision needs to be made as both programs need the funds. Balance, tourism promotion, community activation, project delivery, and broader fiscal discipline within the current budget framework. And ultimately, whatever direction the committee and council determine regarding TRT allocation, we will work to implement the direction professionally and collaboratively moving forward. I would expect that we would hear quite a bit from the community if they are here tomorrow night in regards to this particular topic, specifically as a desire for this money to stay within Parks and Recreation. And that is my recommendation. Open it for discussion if you'd like.
Questions, so the 25-26 budget for salaries, did that include, so Robert was still working while John came on, so there's sort of some double whammy there, right?
Yep.
Because there's not a lot of difference between 26 and 27, except that there's a reclassification.
There's a couple.
And a part-time grant writer.
Yeah, it's just strictly in this department, yes.
Right, so if you didn't have the department director position or the grant writer, what would your salaries be? I hate to put you in that position, but I mean, that's what we're getting to.
I have that number.
Thank you.
Just a second.
Because we're up 33% since 2024 in salaries. 24% since 2025.
Right, 50,000 there, 50,000 from 25 to 26. That, I think that jump from 25 to 26 is that effect with, is that impact when we had Robert on salary still, and we had John.
So the total personnel cost, because I did it as a total, would go from the $756,624 down to $675,775.
$75,000.
In council budget?
This
City
is,
manager?
this is council, city manager,
Oh, I
and
see, the
personnel.
You said
total.
total.
You're-
Say that again,
you're
Heather,
not-
how much would
okay.
we?
So basically, you would save $80,000, almost $81,000, if we did not do the reclassification and did not add the grant writer position.
Okay,
And we do, the FTE is 11.6.
That is correct.
Yeah, in the budget message, it said 4.6.
4 point, because this is including council.
yeah.
So you add 7 council members, and it's
Okay.
11.6.
Which, yeah, the salaries.
We discussed it one time, instead of a half-time grant writer, to do it on whatever grant they get a percentage of. So
A
Oh,
contract.
you're talking about
Contract,
for us to receive money back for the position itself? You're talking about administrative costs to cover the cost of the grant writer?
Right, and contract with them, yeah.
There are, I can't speculate right at the moment as to what we will get. We can't guarantee that every grant will give us the opportunity to recover the funds to help cover that. There is potential that we will be able to, but until we're putting in for them and we see them, I can't speculate as to what we will or will not get.
Is this grant writer going to be, or proposed grant writer going to be benefited?
We actually have programmed for it. I'm sorry, you want to speak?
That's
to it?
okay. So we chose to go the employee route versus the independent contractor. Is that what you're kind of
That's what I
thinking?
was on that contract.
We chose to go that route because when you go through an independent contractor, you lose actually a lot of control or authority over what they do, because there's some strict rules and regulations per IRS, whether they're considered an employee or independent contractor. So we decided to go to the employee route and give them half time, and yes, they would be benefited. But they would only receive half the benefit that a full-time employee would receive.
Where we had the desire for a full-time employee, we elected that to get the balance between those options that you're talking about. That was we felt the most responsible thing we could do, even though we have appetite for more.
Did you consider putting off the new directors until next year to see how everything is working?
We did consider that. Obviously, my decision was different than that. I can tell you that in all of the different positions, I just have I'm trying not to get into back behind the door stuff that's going on inside the organization. When it comes right down to it, I think the most fair and correct thing to do to make sure that people are treated and compensated appropriately for the work that they're doing includes these alignments, not to mention that some of those positions had turnover, and this is intended to be able to be a factor to help make sure that that doesn't continue. But some of those positions are also enterprise positions, so it doesn't have the same effect. When we're talking about just the general fund positions, the general fund positions have had turnover, and this is intended to help keep that from continuing to happen, as well as the level of responsibilities have been increased for positions. Therefore, in order to appropriately compensate, and a lot of this is also detailed in the questions that were sent in to us in the memorandums that have sent out to you guys as well. The bottom line is I believe that, again, going back to FTI, this is an investment. You got to spend money to make money. And I'm working on getting us to where we can do that. And I want you guys to know that I didn't make these decisions arbitrarily or lightly. I believe I lost a lot of sleep trying to make these decisions for the best interest of the community and for the city. I believe wholeheartedly that I am making the right decisions and that you will see benefits from it, but I'll own it if we don't. What I can tell you is the plan, the PAYC plan guarantees us we're going to arrive right where you want to be. The question is how fast we get there. And the plan details what we will do to make sure that this doesn't get us in too bad of a place before we start reaping the benefit that we're looking for.
So I have a procedural question, and I'm not sure who can answer this, but if the Budget Committee desires changes, should we take each change as a vote, or do we take all the changes in one vote? And that,
I think you'd have to do it by one, because you might not agree with all of them.
right, okay, and I'm just asking that. So if
That's
we,
how I would feel.
right, if we come to a certain point in the budget, we say,
Right.
there's agreement or there's concern about something and we want to take action, it should be a formal motion and a second and a vote.
Yeah, because if you group them all together, then.
Right,
Yeah.
it gets cumbersome.
But the budget has to be passed as a single vote. correct?
Yes, but the budget has to be passed, but it could be changed as we,
Make
It would
amendments
be an
as we
as
go.
amended,
Yeah.
but it would, at the end, you would have to come up with a single vote for passing the budget
Right.
as amended to whatever that is.
right,
And so,
including all the individual things. I have a question, John, about the computer system maintenance. 2.5% increase? That's, And that's not, and it's really interesting because that's not necessarily the amount in every fund, but it's pretty consistent. That's huge.
I can explain it. So what you're seeing reflected in the budget is we had a lot of costs that were broke out into several different locations. We consolidated all of those costs into one location, so that's why it looks like an increase. We're pending, we have not signed yet, but we're pending a new contract with the IT team, depending on what comes from this, and this is reflecting the assumption that we would approve it. And so if it gets approved, or if you say you don't want that, we fall back to where it was before, which will drop the IT contract back down to roughly $222,000. And all those other costs will be dispersed back out to where they were before, and therefore we'll still be paying, and we'll just be paying them broke out versus being consolidated. So what we're doing now is paying IT, and they're paying all those other bills.
So that said, where, did you just eliminate those line items, or, so which line item went down?
So maybe I can kind of explain.
Okay.
No line item went down. With the contract that we're proposing within this budget, it's increasing it by 50-some thousand. I think it's $51,000 with IT services, but that includes the addition of Microsoft 365, Teams.
In other words, you're paying for application license.
We're paying for application license and additional IT services.
Okay, and are the application licenses annual?
Yes.
Okay, and like my Netflix and my Prime and my et cetera, they go up every year. I mean, I was paying $6.99 for Office 365, and now I'm paying $9.99 a month. So, which is $36 more a year, but on a larger enterprise basis. So, okay.
We had talked about having IT in-house. I mean, $300,000 is what I calculated. 308 is, that just is through the roof in my mind. I don't know if we're getting value in that. That's a lot of money. That's like 2 police officers. 1 police officer, no.
So just to clarify, it's $280,000. There are probably some other software agreements within those lines, but it's $280 for the IT portion that we're specifically talking about. But yes.
I can't see how we can.
How many IT people are there that come here?
We are designated 1 and a part-time.
With this, part of this new agreement, we'd get 2.
Well, every time I've seen in his office, there's like 3 people in there.
Yeah, the manager over it is over there often visiting. It's not a, yeah.
I imagine in this day and age, though, with how everything is so digital, you're not talking about just 1 in-house IT position. You're probably talking about 1.5, 2 cybersecurity.
And they
digital.
need to know a lot, but that is a shocking number.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm just thinking it's probably, we're probably no longer in the world where it's 1 IT person, just with how complex
Just
every
security.
position
Yeah.
is so heavily digital. I'm just thinking out loud.
Security alone is an issue. Look at what happened to Canvas
Yeah.
instructional application last week. Shut down universities all across the country. Google just thwarted a bunch of hackers. So security itself is important. Microsoft is 1 product. Is there any consideration to perhaps going with Google as Gmail? I look at Heather's face. I mean, you can.
We did some significant work with the IT team, and they gave us multiple different options to look at. And there are various different problem sets within the election of any one particular way. There were cheaper ones.
Right.
But the problems associated with the cheaper ones were significantly more than it would have been. So to a level, it's also convenience.
Yeah.
But what I can also say is the amount of time we would have been working to try and work around the problems on the other ones, we would have been wasting a lot of employee time. I can tell you there was when we brought them in and made them brief us, and we filleted them because of the cost. We weren't happy about it.
Okay.
But what I can say is IT is just expensive, and as much as we don't like it, there's not a lot of ways to get around it.
Okay.
Have we looked at other providers?
Yes, that's what I think I just answered.
I can give you the cost estimate that they gave us for the Microsoft.
What's currently being used? You have
$26,000.
licenses for that. You currently have licenses for Microsoft.
And they're expiring.
They're expiring.
And Microsoft it has a mechanism that forces you to go to the next higher expensive. So it's not a matter of want, it's a matter of have to.
Yeah.
Did IT go out to bid like we do other things?
In the original contract, it is, we're not, we're just having the opportunity right now to renegotiate the contract that was originally, and this offered an opportunity for us to consolidate some costs into one area.
I'll offer from my perspective, because of the reasons stated, cybersecurity and other things are such a risk right now to an enterprise like this, that I would rather see us make appropriate investments in companies that are likely to be secure. And those dollars are going to come somewhere.
Yeah.
So you're either taking them as risk if you go and use some low budget, thing, where I think there's some confidence in the level of security and services that Microsoft is going to offer, albeit we're paying for it. So
We might be a small community, but that makes us perhaps more vulnerable to some of the security issues. And the last thing I would hate to see is for our financial system to be hacked, and we're subject to ransomware, which costs us way more than just the additional stuff.
I agree. I think that's a big concern. I just think the price tag is high, and I don't know that, at least what I've seen, the service that we get from them is up to par. And that might take a survey from all the staff. I'm just one little person. Yeah.
For what it's worth, and I realize take my experience for what it's worth. You don't have to buy into it if you don't want to, but I've worked all over the place, and this complaint is the same complaint everywhere. Even in the places where you have a lot more people vying for the contract. It's not, I'm not asking you to like it, I'm just asking you to know that it's not for lack of a team not doing their due diligence. It's a matter of this world is just simply expensive.
I personally go with Microsoft over Google.
Thank you.
And I would say, I have to add to it too, though, that we're always going to have frustrations with whoever's giving us service. I would argue that our IT contractor is amazing. And they're doing a good job, and they don't get a whole lot of appreciation for how hard they are actually working for us.
So, sticking with the computer issues, increase for ClearPoint program, the app, Civic Plus, these are all applications. How much of that 41,000 is tied up in those apps? Do we know? Can you break that out?
I can't.
And what is ClearPoint? I get the other stuff, but I don't understand.
Oh, ClearPoint. Okay, this actually is connected to the fiscal transformation initiative. Remember before I talked to you about the Community Service Readiness Index? That's the platform that we're building that on.
Okay.
It's 23,000, just under 20.
And will those, so you're in the development stage of that, will those costs go away once the platform, the application's developed, or is that ongoing?
It'll be an ongoing cost.
Okay.
As
One
long
of
as we,
them has a 3-year contract.
yeah, it's got a
that's
3-year
signed.
contract, but it's a, it's a cost per year.
Okay.
And we can extend it. I'm sure that when we get to that window, there'll probably be some potential that they'll try to increase the cost. But what I can say is that the tool, if you give me the opportunity to show you what it'll do for us, it will, I believe, if it's implemented correctly, it's going to help make the fiscal transformation initiative that much more effective.
Okay. So I think that there's some things here that the Budget Committee wants to address, maybe? And if so, we should do that directly now with some type of motion or discussion. If not, I'm going to ask if there's any other questions, and we can move on to the next fund. But are we ready to do, is there something, Marianne, you look?
No, I'm not ready to do it today because I would have to think about it.
Okay,
So I would rather wait.
all right,
Well, I had other issues with the advertising.
all right.
What's that being spent on? That's a huge jump.
It is. So again, connects to the fiscal transformation initiative. If we want this plan to work and have maximum opportunity for it to work, we have to engage our community. We stand after we're done here and look at how many people have logged on to watch this particular event. Probably a small number of people, considering the 13,000 people that live here. What I can say is the vast majority of people are engaged over social media. So the money that I'm wanting to spend is intended to help us in all of these different platforms get after getting to people where they are, because I have some people in the staff that are willing to be able to make time out of their schedules to help us do this, but we've only got so much bandwidth, and we have to leverage technology to get there. And the only way we can do that is by paying people like Brent Clapp Industries and AdDad and local marketing to help us produce and connect with people in the way that we need to connect with them.
Can we do it for less or on a reduced scale? I'm just looking at the overall budget, and this is really worrisome.
We can, but you get what you pay for. So at the end of the day, I can do it. Anything we decide not to do, I will support, but I'm telling you, I put it in there. I put my own money into what we did for these first few months. The city paid for some of it, but I put some of my own to it so I could see a proof of concept of whether or not it was worth continuing to do. I put it into the budget because I believe it's worth doing so that we can get the fruits that we're wanting to gain from this overall effort. So take away any one leg, you threaten the ability for it to succeed.
I believe that what you're doing is great with that because I hear it constantly from people that they're starting to know you. You have to admit, in the past, they didn't know the city manager. Now they do. I think it's very important to give you the message out. I would support that one.
And I would contend if we reach the point, I hope that we don't, but if we reach the point where we have to engage the public and ask them to do a special district, this is the difference between success and failure. Because the intent is to make sure that they trust us, and I got to get to where they are. I don't want to spend the money on it, but I don't know another way to get to them.
I think, I hear what Corinne's saying and some alarm over just seeing as a percentage increase what that is. But I also think there's 13,000 odd citizens here. This is less than $1 per person that we're proposing spending in a year's time in order to reach people about city initiatives and things. And so on a per person basis, that sounds somewhat reasonable. I think to Corinne's point, though, I think, you know, we would hope that, especially as information has to be omni-channel now, that we would utilize as much as possible those services that are cost-free to us.
That
that are
does go
digitally.
across, it's more than that, because it's, that advertising is in every budget.
So, yeah, so what is?
I don't have my numbers where I added them all up.
But if we want the community to know what we're doing, we have to tell the story. They have to be out there.
But do we need to spend that much? Can we engage them this much instead of this much?
Well, I think right now we need to do this because it's important.
So let's.
Because we're looking at cutting police officers, and, I mean,
I would ask you not to
in that background.
confuse this line with other lines. The other departments that have it in theirs is for different reasons than the reasons I have it. And the other ones have them there for the reasons they've historically had them.
I like the educational approach. I think it's aspirational, and I would like to see if we do move forward with this in the budget, it would be nice to see proof of concept in future years of how we're tracking that engagement. Are we actually reaching more people? Do they have higher levels of education about city initiatives? Because I want to believe that this works, but I'm a little, I guess, hesitant to believe it, and it would be nice to know that these things will be tracked if this much investment is going in.
100% agree.
John, do you foresee this budget increasing very much over the next few years, decreasing, staying the same, as far as advertising is concerned?
I would say, to a degree, I definitely don't see it increasing. The only reason why I would see us probably wanting to increase it in future years would be as if we're seeing a lot of success from it, and then we decide that, hey, we need to do more of it. But what I would say is that my hope would be that as we're building trust with the community, and they're feeling good about us, that I could see the need to spend that much money coming down. The problem is it's been non-existent up to this stage. And so it's no different than our streets and roads. We haven't been able to put all the money that we wanted to into it. And so now it's more expensive for us to start doing it. So at this particular stage, to me, this is just the upfront cost of doing business. The desire would be my desire would be to not increase it. If in the best case scenario, see it go down with time.
See, John, I think the word is getting out, and I think we all have a responsibility to forward that information as well to our contacts as well. And I think eventually, as people will know where to go, because that's your goal too, that I think our costs will eventually go down, because automatically they'll go to these places. We don't have to push them onto them or let them know. And I think I agree with David, it's not that much, and I think, I'm sorry, my voice is going. But I think it has really benefited the community as a whole.
Thank you.
I do have a quick question. Kind of going back to the staffing portion of it. Heather, when you were saying 81,000, is that for the HR director and half of so 81,000 is promotion and half of a grant writer?
That is correct.
That's total, that's everything. That's salary, benefits.
That's the additional
burdened rate.
cost.
Yes.
Correct.
Not just.
No, I
Okay.
understand.
That's the
No, but that's
additional.
all the costs that go in that.
Correct.
Yes.
Which when you're thinking salaries, everybody just thinks salaries. No,
Oh, no,
when
no.
you have an employee,
That's
you
the whole
have more
personnel
than
cost.
just
Yes.
salaries going into it. And that's why I was asking that question, to make that very clear.
Yep.
So
So
what
those two positions will cost us $81,000.
What I can tell you too, though, is when you're thinking about the grant writer, yes, look at the money that's going out, but I can guarantee you that in this next year, you're going to see $50,000 or $60,000 minimum come back into, maybe even $100,000 minimum, because we've already got Ford Family Foundation positioned to be able to give us potentially give us $50,000 for the economic development plan. just in what we're looking at right now, we're looking at a minimum of $100,000+ that we're going to be able to apply for and bring in. So even though that money is not going to go pay for the position, it's going to bring in money to cover other costs. So I would ask you not to necessarily look at necessarily from just that perspective alone. I would ask you to recognize that a part-time position is likely going to bring us in hundreds of thousands of dollars that will offset other costs in other areas in our organization. But I got to get it started in order to be able to make that start to happen.
Is this going to be an in-house position, or is this
Yes.
remote?
In-house, yes.
Part-time.
I've pushed for a grant writer for the city for years. And this is one position that I think pays for itself. And arguably many times over, and anyone who's ever been involved in grant writing knows that there are people who excel at grant writing and there are people who are okay at it. And the difference in the distribution of those grants between those that excel and those that are okay is enormous. And so we have in the past relied upon each of our directors to write grants. And I've had personal conversations with many of them, and they would not categorize themselves as excelling in that space. And so I think, you know, this is important, an important source of potential revenue for the city in a way that we stretch our dollars further. I would be strongly in favor of retaining that grant position, and I think with the idea that we want to see what they do. Right? This is a measurable ROI for us because we know what monies we've averaged in grant intakes in the past, and we can be looking for changes. And if the time comes that we say, well, we haven't received a return on that investment, but I've argued for many years that this is a position that the city probably comes out well ahead on.
I agree, but a year from now, I'd like to see an
Right.
ROI.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But, all right,
But
let me add to that, though. Like, I'm just hiring the position in
Yeah.
July. And so I don't get to decide when these grants become available. We will pursue them, but if you constrain me to say that I have to give you an instantaneous ROI, I would argue that's unreasonable. What I will say is I'll give you continuous updates and show you the work we're doing to pursue grants and do the best that I can to realize it as fast as I possibly can. But these things are going to take time. And so to make a statement such as, I better have a return of investment within a year, I can't promise that. But I can tell you I'm going to pursue it aggressively, and I'll make sure that you know that we're doing that.
But we can know where things are in process, too.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I guarantee you.
I understand, grants are slow.
Yep.
They are.
I'm all
But-
for going after grants.
Yeah.
I question hiring somebody versus a contract. To your point, grant writing, grants are inherently low. And I'm concerned that, do we not hire the right person? I mean, there is a big difference between excellent and a mediocre grant writer. I don't know if we're going to get an excellent one.
Do you have your microphone on?
Oh, I don't, sorry. So it's lumpy. I question the kind of person we're going to get. I would be more comfortable with a contract grant writer personally.
I can tell you that we spent significant time considering that as the preferred direction to go. After we weighed it as a team, not just me, as a team, the decision we landed on was we felt that it would be in best interest to go with an employee versus a contract. But again, if that's the direction that we get from this body, is the direction they want to go, we'll do it. I'm positive that we can get access to some.
Have we used a contract grant writer before? Do we have experience with that?
Actually, in order for the grants that we have in right now, we actually we used a contract grant writer to get the ones that we have currently.
And from what I understand, if you win a grant, sometimes you can pay for that person.
Sometimes, yes.
Sometimes.
But we're not currently paying for any, no.
If it's a contract person, does that change that qualification?
If it's a no, but it would be the same circumstance, meaning whoever, it doesn't matter who's putting in for it, you can build it into your submission if it allows for it within the submission to recover those costs.
We can recover that cost, whether it's
But
contract
the
or in-house.
Ones most recently that we put in for did not allow for that.
Got it.
I think the primary concern I have about grant writing, and I'm sure you're aware, is that they are time limited, sometimes very time limited. So just something to keep in mind. We'll see.
I will say, for your, if this helps ease the decision-making that we did too, all of the positions, or I shouldn't say all, this particular position, we're hiring it as a limited duration position. So the intent is for one, for them to come in the door knowing that if you want a job that's going to end up becoming permanent, you're going to have to prove that you have value. So that's going to be very well known for the position if we decide to continue to go forward with a in-house hire versus a contract.
I do hesitate. I don't know what the quality and the availability of a part-time grant writer here in the Grande is. And that's where I do have concern that I think if you go with somebody that can work remotely, or if you go with a contract scenario, you're probably much more likely to get maybe a higher quality on that individual. Otherwise, we may be sitting here next year saying, well, that was one of the positions that we never filled. And so I would just submit that as a concern.
A very fair concern. What I can say is we're already getting people knocking on the door asking us, and they're trying to give us their resumes and show us how qualified they are for the job. So there's genuine interest, and at least what we're seeing so far appears as though they're highly qualified and highly capable.
Okay. Cool.
When I say they, people, two people have reached out.
Any more questions on council, city manager, personnel budget?
I have a question on the Cobra. Why you have so low this year? I'm worried about unexpected spend.
So we're starting to meet the sunset date for those employees that have retired and still receive that benefit. It's different for each bargaining group, the sunset date, but there are, we're getting to where most people that have been here and had long service with us are no longer, they've retired. So the number of retirees that we're still paying insurance for has gone down.
You're pretty confident that it's going to be that much lower.
Yes, because there's people that are hired on, and like I said, I can't remember the exact date, but I think it was 2005. If you're hired after 2005, you don't get that benefit at all. So don't quote me on that year, but.
I thought it was earlier than that.
I was hired in 2000 and I still get it. So I'm not sure exactly, and it's different for each of the groups that we have.
Right, any other questions? I'm watching time.
Well, just my suggestion, maybe give everybody a break.
Okay.
Come back, because we are
8:37.
a little behind.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't want to, you're the chair. I wouldn't like us to see us go home and then be a 4-night versus only 2 nights.
Okay.
Well, just a
Fully up to
suggestion, if we're just gonna go until 9, it's 8:37 right now.
Right.
So you're really talking like 23 more minutes.
If we go on to finance and municipal court, I think we can
Just
get
for
through that.
review and talking, yeah, and then
Yeah.
I can do a revised agenda and come back tomorrow.
Right, let's go, as long as everybody's good with this, let's go on to finance and municipal court. I think that one will go pretty fast.
Can I do one thing, just really fast? I would, at some point in time, I would like to, I'm going to make the assumption that this recommendation is what's going to continue forward, because that's what's in the budget, unless you bring it back to me and tell me to do differently.
I'm going to ask that we reserve any kind of motions or anything until after tomorrow night, when we've had public comment.
Correct. I
Okay.
agree with that.
Okay.
So, tonight, we're just asking questions and moving forward, and then tomorrow we'll get some public comments, and we'll see how that might change.
Okay.
Heather?
Not a whole lot of change in the finance and municipal court budget, but I will highlight a few that we do have in here. So salaries did go up because of a reclassification of the finance director
Yes, it
position. That amounted to about $8,000. That's total personnel costs, not just salaries. You will notice that the auditing costs went down slightly. and you'll probably wonder why, we no longer will need a single audit. As you know, the ARPA funds took us over that threshold of 750,000 where we're required to have an audit. Not only will we no longer have the ARPA funds, but they also moved the threshold to $1 million. So we will no longer have the single audit this next fiscal year. Computer system maintenance and repair, the big increase there was the IT contractual services going up.
Yeah.
Our computer system maintenance agreements went down slightly, and that's because this current fiscal year that we're in now, we did that upgrade with our big financial software with Springbrook and went to the cloud. So there was a big upfront cost for that, but our annual maintenance fees will come down to the $52 million, or 52,000, excuse me. Sorry. And the only other thing I really wanted to point out, well, there's two other things. You'll see in the office equipment and furnishings that I put in $14,600. That's a carry forward from this current fiscal year, and I've been carrying it forward for a couple of years. We are hoping to get desks built for us. We've had our desks since I've been there, and I've been there 25 years. They've definitely been through some wear and tear. But our building maintenance person has agreed to build them for us, specific to our needs in our office. So it's taking him a little longer than if we were to contract it out. So, but it's cheaper having them do it. So that's just a carry forward. And the equipment improvements line is gone down. This last fiscal year that we're currently in, it is considerably high, and that's because we decided to do the big IT project just out of the finance and municipal court budget instead of spreading it through all the departments. It's just easier that way. Then in the interfund service, or admin interfund, admin service fees, I include those costs to spread them out, which will happen next fiscal year. So you'll see that decrease, the 10,000 is the remaining, hopefully, of the IT project.
Heather, do we charge people who pay by credit card that 3%, and why not?
No, we do not. We've chose not to, just to keep the costs down to our customers. We have gone, as people, and I had mentioned at the last staff meeting, we have gone to a new third-party vendor to make payments online. It's been a little challenging, but we're getting there, and it's going to be positive in the end. But there's even more options for them to pay electronically, whether it be e-check, credit card, bank bill pay, auto pay. So yeah, those are going to start increasing. And that's something that we could possibly look at to see if, as our fees are going up, that we could possibly.
That was going to be my other question is, once that is in place, why not charge for credit card fees? Because they have the opportunity to do electric check. They can use their checking account. They have the opportunity to not pay with the credit card. So if their choice pay with credit card, they should be paying the fees, not the other side.
They will have fees when they pay with check by electronically as well.
But I'm saying that if someone wanted to use credit card, you charge them credit card fees.
Yeah.
So Heather and I haven't had the opportunity to talk about this. It's my intention for us to start pushing that fee to them at the next fiscal year.
That adds up. That's a lot of money.
I would agree, and I think when we first were implementing online payments, we were really wanting people to do it, so we were holding off on passing that cost over to the customer, but now that it's pretty much the norm, that's how we receive most of our payments, yeah, that's something we definitely need to reevaluate.
And a lot of small business are having to do that just to stay afloat.
Yeah,
to keep alive.
Do you get do you have the same impact if somebody uses a debit card to pay?
So the fees that they charge us, it depends on what type of card it is, whether it's a debit card, whether it's a credit card, whether it's Visa, Discover, American Express.
Yeah.
A whole wide range of.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because they all charge different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Different.
And the amount that it is, so yeah, it just, yeah.
Yep.
It varies.
This is an awkward question because it affects you. How much is moving your position to a director, how much does that change the overall personnel costs?
$8,000.
$8,000.
And I'm already a director, it's just moving me up a grade
Okay.
And there's
to match the level of the
Okay.
police chief fire chief and public works director.
And I ask that because I read about it, but also it's not easy to pull that out of what's in.
And I did not ask for that, I was a John's.
She did not. I would prefer not to speak publicly about my logic, but
And I would ask you not to talk about personnel issues publicly, because that's not appropriate. Any other questions on finance and municipal court?
I would just offer, I would hope that we're taking into account, this affects not only this budget, but some of the others as well. Postage is really expensive. Yeah. When you think every time we're spending 50 cents plus to send a notice out, we should be making every effort possible to make sure that people are opting into electronic communications, and unless it's required by law, I would hope our city wouldn't send any notice. So, anyway, like, here we're, over $4,000 just in this, but you've got other departments, and you're looking at $10,000, $20,000 in postage, which is just unnecessary. Again, unless it's legally required,
And to be
that's
honest,
a number I want to see go down.
To be honest with you, it's lower than what it has been, and you don't see it in the budget document here. But before, we actually used to send out ourselves, excuse me, the water bills. Now we contract that out, so you'll see that in the professional services line. So yes, it could be higher. So you see in our postage line, it's mainly like municipal court and our accounts receivable and accounts payable checks that are going out.
So the company that we contract with to do the billing, they might mail it or they might not, right?
Yes, so with our new online system, you can sign up, the customers can sign up to have a paperless billing and have it emailed to them, and they will not.
And do we know how many, I mean, I do that because I don't want to deal with it, but do we know how many people are doing it?
I don't, and it's increasing each day because we're just now going to this, so, I mean, I can go back and look and see where we're at right now.
I kind of was curious if people are really doing it, because are we paying the company for postage? Or,
Yes, essentially,
so
yeah.
are they maybe
Because we pay
charging
them,
us for postage for
if they sign
everybody?
up for paperless, no, but if
Okay,
in the file that
I
we
just want
send
to make
them.
sure that they would be charging us for postage electronic.
No, they're charging us per bill that they actually send out.
Okay. I like paperless personally.
So do I.
It just comes out and they just send me a little email saying, this is what we paid.
All
Any
right,
other
any other questions for Heather on finance and municipal court? Okay, the next department up is police. Now, I suspect there'll be a lot of discussion about that one. So I'd like to recommend that we adjourn for the evening, come back tomorrow night, and continue this. We can pick up the pace a little bit and get through the rest of this, at least general fund budget tomorrow night, and then on to enterprise. So hopefully.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's a lot.
I don't think we'll get through the whole thing tomorrow night.
I don't either. I think we're good for Wednesday night.
Yeah.
If we only got this far tonight.
So, committee okay with that, adjourning for the evening and coming back to finish up tomorrow night? I'm seeing movement in that direction, so I'm adjourning us. Thank you.